Hello, hello. Good morning. I'm Shirvington Hannays, and it's time for another episode of the Laughing Therapist on Call AM Live. And what's up? Well, I got up, I was ready, I was on time, and all that good stuff. And then I turned on the floodlights, get the lighting all perfect and all of that. And it's two actually. One was out for a little while. I kept forgetting to go get the bulb. The second one went this morning. So Mr. Singh, if you're going to have anything to do and talk about the shadow, da, as Nike says, just do it. Just do it. So I'm just going to do it because I'm excited about this episode. Continuing on the roll with regards to, that's right, emotional boundaries. How to reclaim emotional boundaries that are codependent or non existent. And we're at part six, actually. Part six. So, yesterday I ended just around when we talked about role reversal. Would you like me to recap what a role reversal? Because I really want to get into this whole emotional incest. Emotional incest. Oh, the word incest. Ooh, what is that? Well, I started and I set the stage for it yesterday. But before I do that, I want to look at how people arrive at a place where they don't have respect for boundaries. They don't know how to implement them. They don't know how to maintain them. And it's usually because of one of the autonomic, automatic stress response. We often hear about fight flight, but it's actually four that we now have. And I have what kind of behaviors, attitudes, dispositions that happen with those broad categories of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Just right. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And the truth is, these stress response, like for example, fight, anger is a natural stress response of fight to engage with, not act inappropriate, to engage with, fight. And the cortisol, the adrenaline, and all the norepinephrine and all of that that is released in our body have got to be used up. But there's another stress response that oftentimes is how we show up in our interaction, relating, acting, and reacting in situations. And when boundaries are not clear, demarcated, reinforced, and adaptively adjust to the requirement of the moment, it's because usually stress response of fawns, FAWN, fawn, has been activated. And fawn look like this. If you were any of these things, you're usually responding to life, stresses of life, in fawn. You're not engaging, fighting, not inappropriately fighting. And just so we set the stage for fighting or engaging, let's look at what is fight. Fight is self-preservation of all costs. Fight to survive. That's what fight is supposed to be. And hence, anger, as I was saying to our client, as we prepare for something, they say, well, should I, if I'm asked, are you an angry person? Should I say no? I used to be. Are you dead? No. As long as you're alive, you're going to have to process anger, engage with an intent to survive, not to engage and abuse in an inappropriate way to violate the physical space and all of that of another person. No. So self-preservation at all costs. And then number two, anger. No, I'm not making this up. Okay? This is put forward by the Psychology Today. This document created from the following sources, accessed on the 12th of December 2020 And it is the brain's automatic response to trauma and post-traumatic triggers, a complex post-traumatic stresses, and adverse childhood experiences that then creates a predisposition to respond in any of these modes. So, self-preservation at all costs, well, that has to be tapered and cultured and all of that, or else we can get to become very narcissistic. Self-preservation at all costs. We don't connect with others. We violate. It's all about us. Me. Self-centered, self-absorbing. Selfish is okay to be selfish, but self-absorbed, self-centered, we have to be careful with those. Anger, explosive temper, and outburst. Well, that's to the extreme, because anger is on a spectrum like most other things in life. We have frustration, we have irritability, we have indifference, we have hostility, we have, yes, anger. But all those things are on a spectrum. So because most time our emotional vocabulary is very limited or non-existent, we either happy or we sad. But what happens to feelings? What happened to feelings in between? What happened to them? They exist. But most times we're conditioned, we don't even know. We don't have words to explain the other thing. So it's either, oh, you're angry. Well, no, right now I'm frustrated. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Remember, I'm the laughing therapist. If you continue to tell me that I'm angry when I'm not angry, I will get angry. Anyways, aggressive behavior cannot hear others' point of view. That is a form of flight. Okay? Pronounced sense of entitlement. Oh my God! We have that right now on national TV in a particular place. Pronounced sense of entitlement. Dominant controlling of others, demand perfection from others, pursue power and control at all costs, impulsive decision making, aggressive bullying, insistent criticizing or raging, dictatorial tendencies. That is fight, engage, always. For the purpose of today's exercise, taper it, Shirvington, taper it. For the purpose of today's exercise, we look at fawn, flight, and freeze. We'll look at it another time. But for today, for emotional boundaries, let's look at how those either get violated, never enacted, never put in place because of this. Number one, people who are codependent or in a codependent relationship or do not have boundaries are usually responding in fawn. And to remember what is fawn, if you're people pleasing, you're saying yes when you really want to say no, you're people pleasing. And usually is a passive or passive aggressive way to try to get what you want, but you're not being assertive. Those are two different things. So, codependent fawn has a hard time standing up or saying no, standing up for yourself or saying no. Scared to share your opinion, you're in fawn, people pleasing. Talks about others instead of themselves, people pleasing. Lack of what? You got it. What we've been dealing with, the series we're working on, boundaries, and easily exploited by others, people pleasing. Defer to others, pass on. So what would you like to have? What would you like to have today? We're at a restaurant. What would you, oh, I'll have what you want. I'll have what you have. That used to be me. No, I want prawns. Are you paying? Can you afford? Oh, you can. Well, okay. I'll share some of what you're having. But first, say what you But if you I'm sorry, I'm having way too much fun today. Um, yes, I'm grateful. I'm in so much with so much faith, grace, and gratitude as I move towards 5-5. Yes, 5-5. I'm so happy and grateful for life, for all my accomplishments, and even all those setbacks and challenges. I am who I am today because of those, all of them. When you can be appreciative of all the good things that you have experienced or you're experiencing, and the challenging or the areas that you can grow, opportunities to grow, that Scott Peck put forward in further along the road less traveled, that is a definition or could be seen as humility. Yes, that's humility. When you could appreciate all the things about yourself, know with a mindful awareness the things that you would probably love to change and that you have within your power, in your control to modify. And you can say that. That's humility. That's to be humble. So continuing on what is fun or people pleasing, the stress response, how you're showing up in life, and why most times you don't have clear, intangible boundaries in place with what is okay and what isn't okay in dealing with you. So defer to others in decision making. You're at a restaurant, ask, what would you like to have? I'll have what you're having. No, you were asked, what would you like to have? I'd like to have some prawns. Can you afford that? If you're constantly trying to avoid conflict, you're people pleasing. The reason why there's conflict, there's clarity, the needs of everyone present isn't being met. And hence there's some conflict. So are you able to advocate for yourself? Are you able to say no? Are you able to set limits? Are you able to have boundaries? Able to have boundaries? This is the one that is tricky and why oftentimes emotional, especially emotional boundaries, are not enacted. When you have a difficulty to identify your feelings, not because you lack the vocabulary to label how you feel, but you just don't even know what you're feeling. You can't say it, well, this is how I really feel. And not just go to the two extremes. I'm sad and I'm happy. Nobody's always just sad or happy. Because if you're always sad, well, you're in a clinical depressed state. Because oftentimes when you're always sad, you're not going to have interest in anything. You don't want to get out of bed. You lose interest and pleasure in the things that used to bring you pleasure and you were interested in. So that's usually an indication. But not everybody, quote unquote, with depression access to. In fact, men, oftentimes, we're depressed, you know it, you're irritable, yelling and screaming, carrying, or you cry a lot easily. Oh boy, you've got yes. So you see, so because it might have the criteria that you fit in, doesn't mean that everyone will be depressed looking the same way. But there's some key things that we can identify in 11 criteria. So, feeling that you have no identity, constantly trying to please others, people pleasing, appease, to others to avoid conflict. You gotta be willing to engage, not inappropriately, but you have to be willing to have an opinion. I don't have to know everything, but do I need to have an opinion about just about everything? Yes, it shows at least I'm willing to engage. When a person is accepting beliefs, thoughts, and truths of others easily, that is a form of people pleasing or fun. Uncomfortable, threatened when asked opinions. Concerned with social standing and acceptance. Oh God, inferiority. But I have to be, you're so concerned with that. So you see the flip side? You could be demonstrating or putting forward certain traits, and you think, oh, this person. No, if you're so obsessed with where you stand and that you have to be this all the time, it's a form of inferiority complex. Yes. So you see, people, especially those who we would think are overt narcissists, oftentimes beneath that is an inferiority complex. Yes. So people who are running around, no, they have a complex. Excuse me, and oftentimes it's one of inferiority. Yes, you can have the flip side, superiority, but even then, there's usually some elements of feeling inferior. Why do you have to constantly try to show that, oh, I'm this, oh, I'm this? It's because on some level you don't feel that you are that. And I'm going to tell you what it is. Listen to what it is. The following is a list of symptoms of codependency and being in a codependent relationship. This is what I use. It's called a codependent relationship index that we can use to identify how severe codependency may exist between a relationship of two persons. So, low self-esteem. You know how you can know when a person is suffering from low self-esteem? Listen to this. Feeling that you're not good enough or comparing yourself to others are signs of low self-esteem. Yes, that reality show that is happening right now, you know that person has such a low, it's on the ground, it's dragging on the ground. So you try to assert, you try to put yourself up this. Oh, I know. Oh, that person is inauthentic right now. Well, how do you get to make that decision about that person? That person is the only person that is an authority on them. Why? They know themselves from the time they were born to now. Who are you? You just show where you know that person. The tricky thing about self-esteem is that some people think highly of themselves, but it's only a disguise. See that there? That's the key. People who think too highly of themselves. Me, I tell y'all, I cried. Oh, yesterday I had a little bout of it. I don't have a problem. I cry when I feel like that to release. Because to cry, you must have certain neurotransmitters released. And that feel good. Dopamine and serotonin in balance. That is feel good. You learn something, right? Yeah, crying, you to cry, certain hormones and neurotransmitters. Remember now, hormones, cells in the brain, they're always called neurotransmitters. The release of the chemicals within them would create or cause neurotransmission. And neurotransmission is the movement of energy between cells. Okay? And that's what caused certain things to happen. Yes. Even this that I'm doing right now, talking to you and being able to process my cognition, is being facilitated. It's so good there. Yes. I do. I had a good night rest. I just dropped everything at a certain point and I went to bed because I finally got my vision, my bio, and my life statement to the publishers that they've been waiting on for a while. So I got it done yesterday. Okay, I'm going to continue to work on the manuscript that I promised them like 1 month ago. I have to be in a certain mood to write, or writer's block takes me over. So, for example, what I used to do in Ontario, I would go to Niagara Falls. And when I'm at Niagara Falls, my writing is usually rich. So I would go there or just leave wherever I'm at to that familiar place, oftentimes writer's block come easy for me. So see, to know thyself. So for example, what I would do, I would just change the room around, and that newness, that flow of energy, the dynamics of that allows me to address writer's block. And also, it's something that goes along with having a diagnosis of adult ADHD. To challenge that, oftentimes you have to understand when you're in that, or even people with bipolar, for example, when they're in that low state, they shouldn't try to do things that require a lot of energy. No. Yes, you should try to lift yourself out of that mood. And if you need medication, then you have medication. But when you're now in the more and you're full of energy, then do things that can utilize that energy. That's how you manage bipolar. But we have bipolar 1, bipolar 2. Which one do you have? Oh, knowing those things, that's how you manage it. Because oftentimes, those states of being or the disposition don't just go away with medication. You come to a place. Most mental health related illnesses, disorders, disease, or disabilities, you arrive at a place to manage them. A person with schizophrenia, for example, may always, for the rest of their life, once there has been the onset of it, for the rest of their life, have schizophrenia or schizoid personality disorder. You will always probably have that, but being aware of what it is and having mental tools in your toolkit to be able to manage them is how you then go on to still be productive. Remember now, according to the World Health Organization, your mental health is your ability to adaptively respond to the needs of the moment and still be productive and meaningful in your life and be productive. So, continuing along, low self-esteem. Why boundaries usually are either violated, not put in place, and cannot be maintained. So, feeling that you're not good enough or comparing yourself to others are signs of low self-esteem. The tricky thing about self-esteem, not just low or high, self-esteem full stop. What you're telling yourself about yourself, that usually indicates your self-esteem. If you're telling yourself negative things all the time about yourself, you cannot show up and be quote unquote assertive and proud and okay and adjusted with yourself. No, it doesn't work that way. What you're telling yourself about yourself is your self-esteem. You're telling yourself that, oh, I am beneath you. Know that you're in conflict with what you really believe about yourself. So a modification there. What you're telling yourself about yourself and what you believe about yourself, that indicates, okay, that indicates your self-esteem. So you can be telling yourself or thinking highly of yourself, but if it's a disguise, they actually feel unlovable or inadequate, or constantly thinking that you don't like me. Well, do you like you? I mean, really like you, not the erroneous beliefs that you have about yourself. Do you really like you? Do you respect you? How do you treat you? How are you treating your self-image? How are you showing up out there making a fool of yourself, which means that, people should respect you and like you? Hello? Guilt and perfectionism often goes along with low self-esteem. This I've come to know to be true because I'm recovering that. Perfectionists. People who are perfectionists have very low self-esteem. Why and how? Let me tell you how. And oftentimes don't have proper boundaries that are healthy. Perfectionism is having an unrealistic expectation, is having unrealistic expectations of yourself. And because they're unrealistic expectations, they're never met. Cannot be met. They're unrealistic. Hence, unrealistic. So they're never achievable, or you can never meet them. And guess what happens? Every time you fail to meet those unrealistic expectations, you have the perception that you're a failure, that you failed, and then you feel horrible. But it doesn't stop there. People who are perfectionists, clinical definition of it, have unrealistic expectations of themselves that they impose on others. Yes, that's why it's a disorder. Oops. I think, oh, I'm doing everything. No. How about if you try to do everything according to the specification or the needs of the moment? Yes, that's what is required by the guidelines to get a job done. Do it according to that. To do it to be perfect, everything can be improved on. Duh. Once you understand that everything can be improved on, you'll give up this whole thing, oh, I'm a perfectionist. No, you have unrealistic expectations of yourself that you can get something right. And put it in a simple way, oftentimes when you're a perfectionist, you have poor time management skills. Oops. Yes. So that's why I give up my membership and my position at the head of the perfectionist club. I give it up. Yes, sometimes I find myself going back there, like these books behind there. You see how they all lined up on a bit of perfectionism or obsessive compulsive. Yeah. So sometimes what I do, I just put them all over the place to challenge myself that it doesn't have to look like that to be okay. I have a preference for them to look like that. So at first, I would have had them all going down in that word, OCD, or being obsessive compulsive, or being a perfectionist. No. So now I challenge myself. They can be just like this, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how you challenge yourself to do things differently. And how do we arrive at that? I got 4 minutes to go. Don't worry, man. To this, we're having fun with emotional violation. Okay, join me this afternoon for lunch and learn. And I'll look at how we arrive at what we believe, how we arrive at our self-talk. And it's called mistaken beliefs. How we arrive at them. Where does negative self-talk come from? The things we're telling ourselves, which is rooted in how we arrive at either low self-esteem or high self-esteem. It's rooted in our self-talk. Join me for Lunch and Learn. That's right. Lunch and Learn is a one-off, something that sets the stage for other future webinars, talks, presentations, or whatever. That's why it's one episode of something, and then that is put away, and it can always be built on with another talk or a webinar or a presentation, a live presentation in person. So yes. So fun, people pleasing, which leads to violation, especially with emotional, intellectual, and spiritual boundaries, is because when you are uncomfortable or threatened when asked for your opinion, concerned with social standing, and the very last one, you know that you're a people pleaser or you're constantly responding to life stresses and stressors as an angel of mercy. Oh, you gotta help everyone, you gotta save everyone, you're the rescuer. You're over caring. It's okay to care. When you're over caring, you're people pleasing. And when you're a yes man or woman, person, yes, yes, you never, if you find yourself always saying yes, you have a problem. Low self-esteem and people pleasing. So, underneath, usually from the consciousness, and usually perfectionist, you may not even know that you're a perfectionist. Underneath, usually hidden from the consciousness, are feelings of shame. People who are disguising how they really feel and act have a layer of deep-rooted shame. And what is this shame? Shame is not there, did something and have some remorse about it and it can be corrected. That's guilt. Shame is thinking that something is intrinsically wrong with you. You fail an exam, you can feel guilty about it. But if you fail the exam because you think you're a failure, that is shame. Something is wrong with you. I'm a failure. I didn't just fail the exam because probably I didn't prepare well. I was on Facebook liking everybody's stuff. So I can go and not do that the next time I'm going to do the exam and pass the exam. So since we're coming up in 30 minutes, this was just as good. So until next time, where we'll continue with emotional incest, shaming, and humiliation that comes from parents in our childhood and enmeshment, we'll continue that. And if we have to take the entire weekend into next week, it is that important that I'm going to spend as much time as needed to get through it. Namaste. Until next time, I'm Shirvington Hannays, and this was the Laughing Therapist on Call, AM Live, looking at how to reclaim emotional boundaries that are codependent or non-existent. And we're at part 6. We might have part 16 soon. Moving on. Bye for now.